At home, I have a Sony BRAVIA OLED, and when I got it, it was the top of the line, the best TV they make, their flagship. So thanks to Sony for sponsoring this video where we're gonna look at the BRAVIA 9, their flagship product is not an OLED, it's a mini LED. How good is it? How black can it get? How much bloom is there? How dope is this new matte coating it has at keeping these studio and pot lights off of it and not showing my distracting, albeit sexy, reflection in the glass? And what's the deal with this crazy lenticular stand it has? I want to see that in real life, and we shall once we get it out of the box, which I might need a little help from my friends with. Is this part of the stand? Don't answer that.
I don't know.
Don't answer that.
I can't even see it. It looks invisible to me.
Look at it in all its normal person glory. Last time we looked at a 115-inch version. This is probably more relevant for most people. Before I unbox this any further, I'm actually gonna assemble the stand so I can put it on it. And I heard that this stand is pretty far out. This is just like a really heavy plate. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. This is not a matte finish. I wanted to start from zero with this thing completely deconstructed, but now that I put it in once, I can't really get it out, so we're just gonna move on. As you can see, I plugged one of these legs through the holes, and now I'm gonna screw them in from the other side. Aren't these screws gonna stick out a little bit? Are these feet really tall enough? These are probably the wrong screws. Probably these ones, which are flat. There we go, that's right. That's right. Aha! There are 2 more pieces for this, but they go on after you put the TV on, so let's do that. No, you're not squishing your thumb, all right.
And that, dear boy, is what they call the Prestige.
The aforementioned magnets. Metal. Huh? See where I'm going with this? Little cable management bucket. This thing is like in a little vacuum sealed space sandwich bag, but we'll get that in after we put this over the top. I put in a simulated cable management mess to see what happens when we drop in this thing. You can slide it down. I have a feeling I'm struggling to really appreciate the awesomeness of the lenticular cover because behind the TV is just black, and for most people it's gonna be a white wall. So we put this here now. It definitely looks a lot more floaty now. I can appreciate more why you'd want to have this and not just, you know, an opaque shroud. But let's move on, because you're gonna wall mount this anyway. Before we turn this on, we can actually start to appreciate the matte finish on it even now. I've got studio lights behind the camera. The camera itself has a big light right above the lens. Can you see it? Kinda. Wow, it's like diffused like this big on here. This is the length of the power cable. And of course, it's like a centimeter too short for us right now. I've never seen something like this in the box before. This is a Toslink adapter from the mini version to the full-size version. So you just hang that out of the side of the TV and you can Toslink any size of Toslink you want to Toslink. I want to point out some things that are dope AF. First of all, look at that. See that picture? See what that picture means? You know what it means. You charge this remote with this cable rather than with disposable batteries. That's cool. The speckles on the back of this tell me that it's recycled plastic, and that, I believe, is a speaker grill, because finally, you can make the remote beep by pressing something on the TV. Yes! My NVIDIA Shield lets me page the remote, but I have to use my phone for that, which means my kids have to ask me to use my phone, which means it's useless. I don't want to interact with my kids. On the front side, there's a new design for this remote. We'll go through and see what some of these funky buttons do once we actually have the TV on. Decent assortment of I/O here on the one side. You got 2 USB-A ports, one delivering a little more power than the other. An audio port that's a bit of a combo. It's a digital audio out, or it's a center speaker in, so you can actually use this TV as your center speaker. It's a feature we've seen before and it's pretty cool. Plug that puppy into your AVR, save some money. Then you've got your HDMIs, there's 4 of them. 2 of them are 4K 120. HDMI 3 is eARC. You're gonna use that one. You're gonna. Then you got your LAN port, remote, RS232C, and IR in. If you need an IR range extender, I have one of those. And one of these little boomer knobs, you know. What are those? There's 8 speakers on the back of this thing, and some of them are a little different. 2 of them are subwoofers. 2 of them are full range. Then 2 of them are tweeters, and these ones are some of the different ones because they're trying to make it so the sound doesn't all shoot at the back wall only. They want to get it to you more directly, so the grill is actually here and they're aimed that way. Then there's this weird looking grill up here, which is a beamforming speaker. So all this is coming together to form a system they call Acoustic Multi-Audio Plus. It's meant to sound like the sound is coming through the screen rather than from behind it. And we'll get a chance to see what it sounds like in a bit. And one more note about the base mount on the TV here, it's kind of low on the back of the panel, so if you're mounting on it in the existing wall mount, it's possible that this thing will sit a little differently than your current TV. As promised, the TV is on. We're gonna rip through the initial setup, only showing you the highlights of things I think are interesting. More or less, I'm trying to get to reacting to the content, so let's go. I've been through a million pages of setup already, and the first one that's interesting is optimizing the acoustics. Basically, it's calibrating itself based on the room. It's gonna play a test tone that's gonna get picked up by the mic. Hold the TV remote control at chest level and point it toward your TV. I definitely got a stereo effect on either side of the TV, at the least. So that's cool. Set up AirPlay and HomeKit. I'm not gonna do that, but just to say it does have AirPlay too, which is really nice. And you can Chromecast to it too, of course, it's a Google interface. While I'm in the menus here, I can already appreciate this matte finish on here. We have these studio lights shining on it, and it just looks very even, diffuse, uniform. The only hot spots are actually the bright white tiles and different interface elements that I see because boy, this thing is 4,000 nits. So why don't we start by watching some footage from an ARRI HDR camera that we have on YouTube. The first thing I'm noticing is the black levels. This is actually a good example because it is very black, but it actually still does have texture. It's not just like a zero value, but the holes in those birdhouses there, they almost are just like little voids. So I'm impressed by the black levels for a not OLED. Whoa, and there's your 4,000 nits, that big bloom. And it's not clipping though. There is still information in that. It's like I'm there, but I have better eyes. It's like, it looks realistic, but it actually looks better than real. Another thing to consider, of course, is viewing angles. On this TV technology, they're actually really good in terms of color. Like I'm at an extreme angle right now, and the colors haven't shifted one iota. It looks great. However, what you do get at an angle like this, or even this, is blooming. I'm not really seeing it on this content. It's a bit content dependent, but I was watching some other stuff earlier, especially if there's more black on the screen, you can get a lot of blooming at extreme angles. So I would stay in a, you know, about here or more centered, kind of 30-degree cone. Here we get a good look at the reds. These are just really, really saturated reds in a realistic way. Let's say you're in Ontario in like the peak of autumn and you just get those red maple leaves. This is what you hope to see. It's like, this isn't hyper real. This is just as good as it gets in autumn. Where's Vivid? Where's Vivid? Whoa!
Whoa!
Holy
magenta shift.
Oh my God, it's very bright. Oh, see now it doesn't look like I'm just there with better eyes. Now it looks like I'm there and I'm on acid. Oh my God, yeah, it's just so overcooked. I could get behind these red leaves though. Oh, okay, not anymore. Not anymore. They're actually like neon. I find when the colors are too overcooked, they almost seem like bleedy. On regular LED TVs, the LEDs backlights are usually white, and then they shine through color filters, which aren't very accurate, to then go through the liquid crystal matrix to give you the picture that you're looking at. Here, we're removing that middleman. The backlight has subpixels that are red, green, and blue, and they just all shine, and it's just up to the liquid crystal layer to twist and let through the color value and hue that you want. And the result is fantastic. Sony's saying this is the biggest color volume they've ever produced, which is gamut plus brightness, that 4,000 nits. Out of the box, in HDR especially, it just has very good color accuracy. It does look very good. Sony has a brand new sentence, RGB Backlight Master Drive Pro. That's, I suppose, the engine or algorithm powering how they're driving the backlight, what should be bright, what shouldn't, and how smoothly it blends between those areas. And this scene actually kind of demonstrates the capabilities quite a bit because it has a really bright value, but then there are darker values underneath the cabin in shadow there, and I do still see the detail. So having all that range in one scene is really impressive. So that about wraps it up, other than telling you about the price, which is $3,600 for the 65-inch, or an extra $1,000 or $4,600 for the 75-inch. And honestly, it's just a really good all-rounder. This is a no-brainer TV. If somebody was asking for a recommendation and you haven't even seen what room it's going in, I think you can be pretty confident giving them this one. Obviously, this is priced at the top of their range, but I think the performance and the industrial design merit that price. It is a good-looking set. So thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, check out our other TV unboxings. And also, if you're more interested in a deeper dive on this technology and this TV, we did cover the 115-inch version on Linus Tech Tips.